All right, so now we're going to start creating the rock surface. Now, if we had the elevation for the rock, like where the rock was in is an elevation, we could just use these boring points to create that surface. But as you notice, it's not really the elevation of our site. It's the depth of the rock from the original ground, right? So that's the data we've been provided. So we can't just make that a surface and call that the rock surface. We have to do a little bit of manipulation here, and we'll explain how and why this works later on, but for now we're just going to show you the steps in the workflow so that we can get a rock surface that follows the existing ground surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by creating a new surface, just like we have done in the past, and this time we'll call it rock boring data. Okay. For the style, we don't need the contour, so we can just say border only, and we will click OK. And we don't really care about the surface layer. This is just a temporary surface that we will end up deleting, but we're just going to go ahead and click OK. We're going to add the rock point group. So we're going to expand the surfaces, rock boring data, definition. We'll right click on point groups, and we will add the boring rock data to that surface. So now you can see it's got a surface that represents all that boring data. So now we need to bring in our original ground so that we can do a volume surface. Now, you could bring that surface in multiple ways, but since, again, hopefully you started with the earlier lessons and we've created the shortcut where we've referenced that surface, where we data shortcutted that surface. So what we're going to do now is reference the original ground surface into our current drawing. So I'm just going to right click on that, create reference. And again, we don't really care about what's happening here, but for the style, again, we can set that to border only. We click OK. And now we've got that original ground surface there. Okay. So now that we have both surfaces, the next step will be to create what's called a volume surface. So what I'm going to do is go to surfaces on Prospector, right click, and with this time we're going to click create surface. But instead of using a tin surface, we will use a tin volume surface. This gives us the ability to choose and select two styles or two surfaces. So for the surface name, let's call it rock-EG. For our base surface, we will choose that rock boring data that we created. And for the comparison surface, we will choose the original ground. Right. Now we don't have to do anything else with the cut, fill, or anything like that. We just have to go ahead and click OK. And that's going to create a volume surface. Again, you can see it put a boundary in there, but we're not interested in looking at the contours or anything yet. So now that we've got that rock surface here, we're going to go to that rock volume surface. You can see it's a volume surface by the icon. We're going to right click on it, and we're going to export as a Land XML file. Okay. So it brings up the export to Land XML dialog box. It says rock EG, that's what we want. We're going to click OK. It's going to ask us for a location to save it. I would go ahead and save it in your folder. So in our site design with Civil 3D, let's go here. So site design with Civil 3D, site design in the subsurface folder. We'll go ahead and we'll call that rock surface. Okay. We'll click save. And that is going to export out that surface. may just take a couple seconds. And then what we're going to do once that's done, okay, it says it's export completed. We're now going to go ahead and just get rid of the rock EG that we just exported. And we'll also get rid of the rock boring data. So I'm going to right click on it and delete. We'll go ahead and say yes. So what we're left with is the borings and our original ground surface. Now we'll go to your Insert tab and we'll click Land XML. We're going to insert that one that we just created. So again, let's go out to our site design with Civil 3D, create subsurfaces, and that's the rock surface that we just created. Go ahead and click Open. Now here what we want to do is expand surfaces, and we want to uncheck the surface volume composite, right? We don't want that. We just want the surface description here, description name rock EG2. All right, we'll click OK. And that's going to bring in that rock surface. Okay, now it's displaying the contours. We could have just said border only, but what we're going to do, just to show you what it looks like here, is we're going to draw a line. So you can just type in L, enter, and just strike a line through the two surfaces here. Okay, hit escape. Now select that line. We can right click and do a quick profile. You can change the existing ground profile. You can leave that the way it is, but for the rock EG, let's select that and just use a different style. Let's just pick left sample profile. We can talk about creating a profile style, but this is just to show you what it's going to look like. I'm going to click OK and OK, and I'm going to pick a point. And now you can see that I've got my original ground surface here, and then this is the rock surface. And you'll notice how it's lower than, but following that original ground surface. Okay, so what we've done in this process is we've taken, because of the volumes, we've been able to really create a rock surface that follows the similar terrain of the existing ground. Okay, so if I take this quick profile here and we drag this, you can see that that profile is going to change. And you can see, depending on where the rock outcrop is, right? So, 17, if we look at the properties of that, oops, hit escape here. Let's pick 17, Cocoa Point. The point elevation is 3.5, but that's really the depth in here, or sorry, 13.5. That's the depth of that area, right? So if we were to kind of come in here, we can see you've got about, there's 10 feet there, right? So depending on where that line is, you can see over here we've got a lot more depth of rock, or the rock is a lot deeper in this particular case. But that's how we create the rock surface. So what we're going to do next, let's go ahead and just delete that line. We're going to take that surface and we're going to add it to our shortcuts. So again, what we've done is we've created it, and now we're going to create a shortcut of it. So if we come over here to data shortcuts, create data shortcut, it's going to ask us to save the drawing. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll save that to our project folder under Civil Site Design with Civil 3D, under Create Subsurfaces, and we will call it Rock Surface. It's fine. We'll click Save. And before we actually go to the next step, actually see how it says Rock EG. So I'm going to cancel out of this. Apologize for that. And let's go up to that Rock EG and just right click on it. Go to Surface Properties. Let's rename this to Rock Surface. And that's good. We'll just keep it Rock Surface. We can keep it as border only. Now let's go back and create that data shortcut. It's going to ask us to save our drawing again if we didn't, so let's cancel that. We'll hit save. Make sure you save the drawing. Right click, create data shortcut. There's our rock surface. We'll click OK. And now we can use that surface in other drawings and for other analysis.